Hi, I'm Ruth Pierce, and I consider myself the relationship maximizer because I help myself and I help you take all your relationships to the next level. And we are doing a book club through Meetup on Zoom. It's online through Zoom on Love Yourself, Life Your Life Depends on It. And we had our first session this morning, and it was very good. And now that recording goes out to just the people that attended it. But this is the information, this is a presentation of that material. And I hope that it blesses you. I trust that it blesses you. I trust that it challenges you to think about loving yourself in a whole new way. So let's get started. This is a very short book. It has lots of little short chapters, and it's really the author's experience on how he worked through this. And you'll have your own experience, but you can learn from his, take what works for you, and throw out what doesn't. Why read this book? And that's the title of the first little section. And Kamal, I'm going to guess that's how you say his name. It's Kamal. He was terrified. He was very fearful. During this one time of his life, he was a CEO who had fallen apart when his company failed that he had started 4 years ago. And he started these practices, and we'll get into them more. And he wrote a book where he shared his fear and shared his truth with the world because a friend asked him to. We'll get into that a little bit more later. And it changed his life. This book went viral and helped so many people. And what would have happened if he had given in to his fears and hadn't shared what he had learned? And take that into your world. Because what have you learned? What do you need to share? But you're fearful that you'll be rejected if you do. But somebody, and probably several somebodies, need to hear your truth. This book is divided into 3 parts. And for a book club, we're mainly going to focus on the first part. And it's very short. It's like 51 pages that we're going to focus on over 6 weeks. But it's called The Vow. And it's the expanded version of the first book he wrote. The one that you probably, if you get a hold of this book and you read it or listen to it, was written 7 years after the first one went out. So he had gotten some feedback and he had realized what was helping people and what wasn't, and how he could better help them. The original part is what he wished somebody would have given him when he was at the bottom. It's no fluff, just the simple truth. And then the second part is the manual, and it's new with this version. And it lays out the process that he's refined over the years to love himself. It takes that information to the next level. So you kind of want to read those in tandem, or definitely read both of them. It is a step-by-step guide. And then the third part is called The Lesson. It's a record of a time when I fell hard. And it's not the time that he talked about in the beginning. And how he applied everything in this book to heal and then rise. It is his story, and we can learn from other stories. It also gives us the okay when we fall down. Just climb back up on that horse and go again. This is Kamal's plea. Please try it. It works. My challenge to you is to find what works for you. Take what he has had and suggested and make it your own. And then whatever works, keep. and whatever doesn't, throw out. I found this book a couple years ago when it was recommended to me. And before I read this book, I thought I loved myself. I thought I valued myself. But what I did, that love was external, it was surface. The value was based on my accomplishments and when I did what was expected of me or what I expected of myself. But it wasn't unconditional love, and it wasn't value and acceptance from my core. The last couple years, I've been on a journey to love and value myself at a deep, genuine level. Have I arrived yet? No, I'm still working on it. We're all on a journey. Some of us are at the beginning points, and some of us are further along, and some of us are even further along than that. It's been enlightening and fulfilling on so many levels. But I know it's time for me to reread this book and gain deeper insights from it. So I'm glad we're working on it together. So now we're ready to start the first section, the first part, as we called it, called the vow. And it's got many little subsections in it. And I'll try to share those as we go in case you're following along with the book. But how it started is the name of this little subject, subsubject. He went to a conference. I don't know how big it was, but pretty big, very big. There were a lot of important scientists there. There was CEOs, politicians, people of importance. And he was expected to give a 2-minute TED-like talk. And he was struggling to know what to talk about. But he shared his truth, what he had learned purely from his experience, something that saved him. And before we go any further, if you had the opportunity for 2 minutes to share your truth, what's important to you, even if it's not to a big group, maybe just to a friend, what would that truth be? What truth have you learned from experience that you would want to share? That's a sidebar, just something for you to think about. Now back to Kamal's talk. If I could do anything, I would share the secret to life with the world. And I just figured it out in the last few months. And from that opening, he went on to speak about the previous summer when he was very sick, practically on bed rest. The company he had built from scratch 4 years ago had failed. He had gone through a breakup, and a friend he'd loved suddenly died. To say I was depressed, he said, would have been a good day. Then he told him about the vow he made and how it changed everything. Within days, he started feeling better physically, emotionally. More surprisingly, life got better on its own. Within a month, his life had transformed. The only constant being the vow he had made to himself and how he kept it. It touched many people in that audience that day. Later, his friend wanted to interview him on his podcast, but he was too fearful. His friend, James, the podcaster, replied, "This is the only message that's important." He did not go on the podcast, at least at that time, but he did agree to send his friend his notes, and if he found them beneficial, Kamal would publish them. The rest is history. By the way, this is not a faith-based book. So if you are a person of faith, don't throw this out because of that. There's some real truth here. But allow God in your process. Allow His unconditional love and value for you to allow yourself to love and value yourself. In my own journey of loving and valuing myself, I have found the degree in which I genuinely love and value myself sets the thermostat for how high all my other relationships can go. And that includes everyone. It includes the romantic ones in your life. It includes family, friends, coworkers, supervisors. I have an HR hat that I put on occasionally from my work in HR. So it does. It includes professional relationships just as well. And honestly, you have relationship with organizations, with the place where you work. There's a relationship between the employer and the employee, and it goes both ways. And this will help with that too. But I don't know about you, but back to the thermostat. I want to set mine high because I have great visions for my relationships. Now, some of them are going to go by the wayside. I realize that. But the ones that are worth keeping, I want them to go as high as they can go. And this love that we're talking about for ourselves, it's not a selfish love. It's the exact opposite. It's a win-win love that values the other person too. And it desires for that win-win. This isn't the book. This is just something that comes from me. I think it's important. A win-win means a win for both parties. If you don't have a win-win, you're going to have a lose-win, which means I lose and you win. Or you're going to have a win-lose, which means I win and you lose. When it all boils down, if you settle for that win-lose or the lose-win, it's a loss for the relationship. Now, we all know in relationships, there's give and take. And that's just part of a relationship. But I'm talking overall, if there's a consistent pattern of one person winning and one person losing, it is a loss for the relationship. The next subtitle is, what is this about? And there's a difference, this is Camille's words here, between what we have taught by our parents and self-help books. It's not lip service. And then I added this. It comes from deep inside you, your core, and flows outward. It will change your beliefs in yourself, which is so important. It is a practice. It's not a one done and it's over. You have to do it over and over again, just like exercise. It must become a habit over time, a very important one. And this next one is a quote from the author, and I believe it's where he got his title. Love yourself like your life depends on it. The truth is to love yourself with the same intensity you would use to pull yourself up if you were hanging on a cliff by your fingers, as if your life depended on it. Once you get going, it's not hard to do. It just takes commitment, and I'll share how I did it and be ready to be transformed. The next subtitle is called Beginning. When it began for Kamal, he was done with life. completely done with life. Remember, he was almost on bed rest. And out of desperation, one day he climbed out of bed, struggled over to his desk, opened his notebook, and wrote, "This day, I vow to myself to treat myself as someone I love deeply. In my thoughts, my actions, the choices I make, the experiences I have, each moment I am conscious, I will make the decision I love myself." That was his vow that he wrote down. He knew he could love another person, but what about loving him? How many of us have been taught loving others was more important than loving ourselves? I know I was. Most of us were taught that it was selfish to love ourselves too much. So how do you go about loving yourself? Kamal didn't know, but he had made a vow, something far greater than a want or desire. And it wasn't, "I wish," or "this would be nice to have." He had to go all in or destroy himself trying. I encourage you to go that direction too. He started simply. He started telling himself, "I love myself. I love myself." He kept repeating it. When his mind would wander, he would pull himself back. When he would go into some rat hole and not believe in himself, he would pull himself back by saying, "I love myself." And you can even put in there, "I love myself unconditionally," because I think that's what it is. He said it to himself everywhere. It became an anchor. Then he started adding anything that possibly would work or might work. And he did it. And he kept it if it did, and if he didn't, he threw it away. And I want you to do the same. You can take some of his thoughts, try them out like a pair of shoes, and if they work, if they feel comfortable, keep them. If not, send them back. And on top of that, you're going to come up with your own practices that work better for you than these. And that's good too. But find ways to reinforce that concept of "I love myself." Now back to his story. When he started doing this, when he kept saying, "I love myself, I love myself, I love myself," this is what happened. He got better. Remember, he was physically, emotionally, mentally, all 9 yards. He was down for the count. But his body started healing faster. His state of mind grew lighter. Life got better, something he had never expected or imagined. Things happened that were fantastically out of reach. Amazing people came into his life. Opportunities arose. Situations were resolving themselves. In the beginning, he did not believe he really loved himself, but he was saying those words. If that shoe fits for you, then recognize it. And he said it anyway. And that's what you need to do. He said it anyway until it was more on his mind than not. Then the belief came that he truly did love himself. So if that's you, just keep saying it till you start to believe it. The next little subtopic is titled "Why Love?" Why did he say I love myself? Not I like myself, I accept myself, because that's all part of it. And I would even add, I value myself. And here's his theory. You experience love as a baby. The mind knows it at a fundamental level. So love has the ability to slip past the conscious and into the subconscious where magic happens. It slips past that training and conditioning that we have been taught that it's selfish to love yourself. A baby experiences unconditional love. We love a baby and they know they're loved. Even when they wake you up in the middle of the night and they poop their diapers and they cry for no reason, that love is still there. And that love needs to be the same for us. There's going to be times when we don't act the way we want to act. There's going to be times that we don't accomplish what we want to accomplish. But that love needs to stay constant for ourselves. That deep core love, that deep core value that I love and value myself. This is Kamal talking again. What if you do not believe that you love yourself? Doesn't matter. Your role is to lay down pathways brick by brick, reinforcing the connections between the neurons. The mind already has a strong wiring for love. The body knows it as well. It knows that love nurtures, that love is gentle, love is accepting, and it is healing. Your job is not to do any of those things. It's simply to love yourself truly and deeply, again and again. Make it your single-minded focus. The mind and body will respond automatically. They do not have a choice. And those are Kamal's words. As you love yourself, life loves you back. Or according to Kamal, he does not think it has a choice either. He can't explain how it works, but I know it to be true. So we've talked a lot. Are you ready to do a simple vow? The one that Kamal started with? If so, I want you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. This day, I vow to myself to treat myself as someone I love deeply in my thoughts, my actions, the choices I make, the experiences I have. Each moment I am conscious. I make the decision. I love myself. That's the starting point. And those are Kamal's words. I want you to write your vow in your words. So over the next couple weeks, get a journal and start. You can start with that one as a basis and say, this phrase means something to me, but this one does not. So subtract, add, whatever you want to do to create the vow that's going to change your life. And if you're reading this book along with us, that second part goes into more detail in that manual on how to write your vow. So go find that in the book and read it too. In fact, he does change some of the order in that. He has forgiveness first and then write the vow. Where in this first part, he has you start with the vow. So that's what we're doing in the book club. In fact, I encourage you, if you're going to follow us along in this process, to get a journal or something where you can take some notes on what you believe about yourself what you don't believe about yourself, what you want to change about yourself, so you can track your process, your progress as you go, so to speak. That's where you can write your different revisions of your vow. And then once you get even a version that you like, even if you refine it later, get it somewhere where you see it often. Write it down, post it on a mirror, read it daily, if not twice a day, maybe once before when you get up and once before you go to bed. Another trick that I've learned on things like this is to use your smartphone, your voice memos on your smartphone, and record it. And that way you can just replay it. Anything that works. Also, in this journal or wherever you're writing this down, I encourage you to write down your beliefs and how they're going to change. I think I may have mentioned that. If I did, I apologize. And with those beliefs, you're going to take a deep dive and see which ones you want to keep and which ones you want to throw out. The next little section is a practice, and we're going to be talking about different practices over the next two. But this part about the window is really good. So I'm going to read it to you. Darkness is the absence of light. Any negative thought is darkness. We have negative thoughts come most of the time, don't we? How do we handle them? How do you remove it? Do you fight fear or worry? Do you push or drown away sadness and pain? It doesn't work, does it? Instead, imagine you're in a dark room and it's bright outside. Your job is to go to the window, pull out a rag, and start cleaning. Just clean. And soon enough, light enters naturally, taking the darkness away. Each time the mind shifts to the darkness, whether it be fear, worry, pain, you name it. It can be about a relationship. It could be about a circumstance. When you notice it, clean the window. Light will flow in. And just based on what we've talked about today, that first swipe of the rag, I love myself. The second swipe, I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. And then it may involve other practices too. You may be journaling. You may be telling yourself life is good. Believing that whatever circumstance you're going through right now, it's not going to stay that way forever. And I do believe that. It may be having a friend come over or go see them, go to coffee. Somebody that loves you unconditionally. And you feel their love and the value that they have for you. Could be many things, but figure out what cleaning that window looks like for you. But I do believe it starts with saying, I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. And that's the end of what we covered today. And we'll continue with this over the next several weeks during the summer. It's not every week. I think our next one is June 18th. But I will say, have a wonderful day. And I leave you with this concept that if you do not believe that you can love yourself, that you're not supposed to. I had somebody give me permission that I was important. They didn't use the word love yourself, but they said, Ruth, you are important too. And so if you are in that boat right now where you do not feel you're important, I tell you right now that you are important. If you believe you're not lovable, I tell you, yes, you are. So go and love yourself.